Have you ever wondered why so many people these days are tired, stressed, and feel like life is going nowhere? Why is it that we're living in the most comfortable times possible and yet we feel very exhausted, although we're not doing something that involves so much labor, stress, and effort? Now, on the internet, you may have heard of things such as this is some capitalist conspiracy, this is some matrix, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, the solution to this is something that no one has really thought about. And the reason I want to talk about this is in our text, it was mentioned that someone who sees activity in inactivity and inactivity in activity is an intelligent person. We are exhausted and stressed from the work we do because we don't understand our right relation to the work we do. Most of the time, the work we do is done begrudgingly because that's a source of sustenance. We understand that if we don't perform work, no one's just going to come and put money in our bank account for no rhyme or reason. And we have to work to make a living. That is a given. Now, when we see work from the point of just making a living, we obviously want to do the least possible so that we have enough food for us. We don't see the reason of going above and beyond because you can only eat so much food, right, before you fall sick. So everyone who works just to make a living or just to put food on the table is going to have a hate relationship with the work they do because they work just for putting the food on the table. Now you're born a human being and you're not born a stomach, which is why there is so much more to your life than putting food on the table. What do you do once you have enough bread? Once you're not hungry or starving, you need to find something that is more than just a source of sustenance for you. And the reason most people who work right now are burnt out, are stressed, are irritable is they work for sustenance. Which is why when the weekend rolls in, people don't want to work, they want to relax and they want to consume. And we've not realized that it was said long ago that if the work you do is the output of your joy, then the work doesn't really feel like work. Now, the dilemma for now is that you don't know what you can do that will bring you money and that will bring you joy simultaneously. So, you throw your hands up all together and say that you don't even want to try. So, if the weekend rolls, you would rather consume, you would rather go to a restaurant, you would rather watch a movie on Netflix, you would rather spend time drinking with your buddies, but you would not think of working. And the traditional sense of work means performing an activity for which you're paid. There are creative things you can do which may not necessarily pay you. You may act in a play, you may choose to volunteer somewhere, or you may choose to make these videos like I do, which is output for which there's no material compensation but is nevertheless work because it does involve using your mind and your hands. You do the same in consumption, but you know what consuming too much does to you. Now, the reason you don't want to work when the weekend rolls out is you've not found out how you're going to be compensated for this. As I make these videos, I'm still unclear on how this is going to make me money. But this is something I can do without a carrot or without a stick. Now, no one's paying me to make these videos, and the views I get on these are not really that great that I get excited about even being famous for these. But what I have discovered is that this is an activity that is very pleasurable, not for the outcome that it gives me, but for the activity in and of itself. Same happens in consumption. You like the food not only because it fills your stomach, but because it tastes good. So while you're eating, you're even enjoying that activity. So, similarly, if we need to find joy in what we do, we need to work when our regular jobs are over. We need to make working the new rest. Now, how rest is seen is the antithesis of our work. Something on the lines of indulgence, something that is an escape from making the grind in our office. Now, if you're not really in love with what you do and you don't have the option of leaving the work you do, what you need to do is you need to work much more when your 9 to 5 is over. If you can't find something that pays you, at least find something that gives expression to the creativity that is inside you. When you refuse to do that and when you choose to just be a passive consumer, that's when a part of you already dies while you're living. And there is nothing more tragic for us as a human being to be dead even while we are alive, because this is the one chance we have in this one body that we have acquired for the life that we are. And we don't know the body we will acquire when life ceases to exist in this body that we have. And the best way to make use of this is giving artistic expression to ourselves in whatever work that feeds our spirit, even though it may not feed our stomach. So maybe you'd like to sing, maybe you'd like to be part of a theater group, and maybe these activities may not have any monetary outcome, it may not get you recognition, but it is something that feeds the soul. And the reason I feel we don't do activities that feed our soul is we don't see ourselves as the soul. Since we see ourselves as the body, we need material compensation, we need money, or we need fame and recognition and status, because these can be perceived much stronger than something like joy or contentment. When you're doing something that gives you joy or contentment, you're not choosing the path of gratification, which feels much stronger, but over the long term leads us to hell, a living hell, because the pursuit of too much pleasure is what really brings sorrow, because you cannot get unlimited dopamine hits and keep rising in pleasure. But contentment in and of itself does not create pleasure, which is why you can never really get sick of breathing air, you can never get sick of drinking water. So contentment is that treasure for our soul, which really sustains our spirit. So you'll find artists who struggle to make ends meet, but they have a certain joy in their spirit, they have a certain spark in their eyes that makes even the rich man envious of him or her. And when you have that one thing, or maybe not that one thing, when you have that quality of being committed to the work you do, even though there is no monetary output for that, that's when you start really coming alive as a human being. And the reason you and I have not entered into that field is we have conditioned ourselves to see ourselves as the body, and the body requires material gratification, it requires sensorial gratification, it requires psychological gratification in terms of fame and recognition. But being by yourself, pursuing the craft or hobby that gives you joy, is unlimited treasure, because this is not contingent on the external world. You getting fame is contingent on the external world recognizing something of value in you. You getting money is contingent of the external world recognizing something of value in you. If no one cared about basketball, basketball athletes would not be so rich. If no one cared about cricket, cricketers would not be so rich. So fame, money, and recognition to a great extent depends on external recognition, which is always going to be very shaky. It is not going to be trustworthy. However, since doing what you love does not hinge on any compensation from the outside, you can keep doing it and you can keep being joyful at doing what you do. This is how you sustain your spirit, and I understand that it's painful to do this because there's no material compensation, there's no fame or recognition. And since we are so conditioned to seek this, since body identification is always being forced upon us, that thirst for fame or recognition, which is not inherently good or evil, it's just what it is, keeps staying there in us. And we don't have the courage to do what we love because we know there is no guarantee towards fame or recognition or money. But we need to make a choice of whether we want to live joyfully or not. And I think part of living joyfully is admitting that it is okay to pursue what you love even when there is no material compensation for that. Yes, sometimes life circumstances have you choosing jobs that don't give you internal satisfaction, but you're not a victim. When work is over, you will be accountable to yourself and you will ask, am I consuming or am I creating? And that is going to be the deciding factor in how your life shapes itself. I don't know whether this message is going to really resonate with a lot of people, but for those who it does resonate with, this is the time to wake up to doing what you love. All the best.